this the reading room?
Yes, I'm Saad Manzoor.
And I'm Travis Howard.
This is Reading Room Talk. Thank you for pressing play. Welcome.
Yeah, welcome back, everybody.
Welcome back. So we're back again and again behind the scenes. We're here today with Charrise Lomax, Radiology Technologist. To the stars, I guess. How are you? How's it going?
Oh, I'm great. I'm doing good. Because I'm retired. That's why I'm retired.
We jumped to the
That
end.
makes it great, okay?
Oh, that's awesome. Well, you made it to retirement. That's a huge accomplishment. But you got to take us back. Take us back to X-ray school and tell us, what was your toughest class in X-ray school?
My toughest class in X-ray school was it was probably anatomy and physiology, which I actually took at Akron University.
Oh, interesting.
And not an X-ray school. I come from an interesting era in radiologic training. I came from the area where I was the last class to take the Radiologic Technologist boards, where radiation therapy and nuclear medicine were on the test. That's when you got tested for everything.
Oh, man.
One test. So I was that last group of people in the country that took that test.
Lucky you.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
So can you explain? So what's the difference? So it sounds like you had to take anatomy and physiology in order to sit for the exam, or was this just an undergrad?
So there were also I got caught up in the transition from hospital-based to community college.
Okay. Can you explain that transition for us?
Sure. So early on in radiology, there was strictly hospital-based training.
Okay.
Which is basically on the job, skilled trade. It was a skilled trade.
Like an apprenticeship, basically. It sounds like you would just kind of follow somebody.
Everything was nursing, respiratory. They were all the same. They were all hospital-based training. And all your classes and stuff were taught at the hospital. Because different hospital and school. Of course, the school, the hospital-based program that I went to was certified by the ARRT.
Gotcha.
So, of course, we took the same boards as everybody else. But at that time, community colleges were sort of like coming into their, I guess, more of their use at that time, because community college, when I was in high school, nobody even mentioned community college. The only thing we really knew about was the university, because I lived in Akron, and Akron University was, the major college there, and next to that was Kent State.
Mm-hmm.
So what they were doing, they were requiring, just like, and that's the way it is now, to take anatomy and physiology, and chemistry, and a biology course at the university before you started into the X-ray program.
Sounds like you're pre-med.
Well, yeah.
Like so many classes. Wow.
So I went to a high school that was actually vocational, which a lot of the schools around Akron at that time were. And one of the vocations was allied health.
Okay.
So I took an allied health program, where you had anatomy and physiology, physics, chemistry, biology, algebra, all those courses that you have to take now before you can even start an X-ray program. Same thing back then. It really hasn't changed. It was just where you actually took those classes from.
Okay.
You got some pretty decent exposure in high school then.
I did.
Okay.
I did. I found anatomy and physiology to be more difficult because the classes were so big. There was so many people in those classes.
Mm-hmm.
So even the labs were there were just too many people.
Yeah.
And so I found it more anatomy 1 and 2. Yeah, I took them and passed them fine, but still I just thought that it would have been nicer not to have to deal with so many people.
Yeah.
Yeah, it can be
Oh,
intimidating where you just feel like a number in a sea of
Yeah.
people. Yeah.
Yeah, you guys understand from being in a large lecture hall, because you would have a lecture and then you would have labs, and
and then
it's not.
you trying to huddle around a little cadaver trying to figure out what was what. It's a lot.
Yeah.
It's definitely a
Yeah,
lot.
it's a lot. So I
Yeah.
would think that for me was the toughest one. When I look back, I still have my original scores from when I took my RT,
Oh wow.
and my highest score was physics.
Oh wow. Okay.
Hmm.
Okay. That's funny.
Hmm.
Good for you. Yeah, a lot of people say physics is the hardest.
Yeah,
Exactly. That's
You
what most
nailed
people
it.
do say.
my
Yeah.
highest score was physics. I
Oh.
think what's helpful in physics was my father, who had many licenses, but he was an electrician. He had a second
Oh,
class electrician license for his business, and so he was very helpful.
I
that's really
see.
cool. That's
Yeah,
Hmm.
awesome.
that is cool. Yeah, he was getting you ready from a young age, I imagine.
Oh man. Yeah. That
Yeah.
whole physics still makes me vomit. It's so like especially like undergrad and high school physics, trying to figure out the current which way it's going. Oh yeah, it's too much. Too much. So
Yeah, no, I was good with that current stuff with.
Yeah.
that's awesome. So tell us. So it sounds like are your parents are from Akron, or did they come there from somewhere else?
So my dad is originally from Mississippi, but
Mm.
his family migrated north when he was 3.
Mm.
My
Oh,
mother is from Detroit, and my father was in the Coast Guards and met my mother in Detroit. He was stationed in Detroit on the Detroit River.
oh, that's very cool. Very nice.
Yeah.
Very nice. And you were kind of born and raised in Akron then?
Yeah, between Akron and Detroit,
Gotcha.
but mostly Akron.
Oh, okay, very cool. Very cool. I feel like Detroit was kind of like what Atlanta is now back
Yep.
in the day.
Yeah.
Yep. Back in the day. Yep. I agree.
That's
Yep.
very cool. That's very cool. Now, can you tell us about growing up in like Detroit and Akron a little bit? Like, what type of community did you grow up in? Was it diverse or was it more
No,
homogenous?
Akron was not diverse. I don't feel like it still isn't. Although my parents, like, their first house, they bought their first house in 57.
Okay. Okay.
So that was really early on.
That's a
Um,
major accomplishment to buy a house in 1957 in Akron. That's like
yeah,
really big. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. And then the second house, um, they bought, let's see, 69. I guess it was probably like 67 or 68. And when we moved in that house, we were probably the only black family. Um, no, there was two black families on the block.
Wow.
What was that like for you?
You know what? I didn't know the difference.
Hmm.
Hmm.
I didn't realize the difference until I got older.
Hmm. Okay.
And I think I attribute that to my parents. My parents talked about people. They never described people by their race.
Oh, that's cool.
I see.
Yeah.
Yeah, and one of my dad's partner was actually, he was British. My dad had a air conditioner refrigeration company, and he
Okay.
worked for Farsnow. And so I didn't notice until I got older. My dad didn't really talk about his struggles
Hmm.
until we got older.
Oh, I see.
I see. Yeah, there's a reason they leave Mississippi. So
Well,
And
yeah.
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 You
No.
know what? His dad was a Coleman Porter. You know what that
Oh,
is?
yeah.
Yeah, that was pretty high
Okay.
level.
Oh wow. Okay. Well,
Yeah.
Can you explain to us what that is? Since I actually don't know.
So Coleman Porter was actually, you could kind of think of them as a butler, but they worked on the trains,
Hmm.
and
Oh,
they would
okay.
work. The Coleman Porters would actually work in sort of the luxury part of the train.
Oh,
So
okay.
like the dinner and like where people slept and stuff like that. Um,
Wow.
and they they had I remember he always wore suits. He was always dressed in the nines.
That's
And he was very tall.
This is your
I
grandfather.
thought he was a giant. He was 6'7", so for a little kid, he was a giant.
oh god, he must have been a giant on the trains too.
Yeah, he's tall. He's a really tall, lanky guy.
Oh, that's
Yeah.
very cool.
What
Very,
was his
very cool.
name?
Huh?
What was his name?
My grandfather's name,
Yeah,
Franklin.
Franklin
Franklin
Lomax.
Lomax. Yep.
Okay, very cool.
Shout
Mhm.
out. Very cool. Very
Mhm.
cool.
Mhm.
Okay. So, so tell us. So, growing up, so it sounds like you're one of a few black families in the neighborhood that you grew up in. So, now did that kind of? You said it didn't really affect you like school wise, but you said later on you kind of felt it.
Well, yeah, because um, so it was a part of those '60s where um, in the black community we were starting to really kind of gain position. Um, the opposite corner from our house was a judge, a black judge. Judge Rulak lived across the street.
Okay.
Many teachers, um, teachers, principals, um, nurses, RNs, you know. So it was sort of like the neighborhood sort of kind of changed into more like black professionals.
Mm-hmm,
Um, and then, of course, everybody worked for either Firestone, Goodyear, Goodrich, one of the plant.
I see. I
And
see.
they made really good money working for the plant compared to like other jobs,
Okay.
because it was union,
Mm-hmm,
you
Yeah.
know. So, you have things like I grew up and, like I hear people say, oh, but, we never went to like we went to the dentist and none of us girls, there's four girls, none of us girls were born where we could actually see. So we all wore glasses, so my dad had health insurance 'cause working for Firestone. And then of course he ran his own business, and so like, so some things I didn't really kind of, you don't appreciate it until you get
mm-hmm.
older, you know?
Yeah. No. Definitely. Definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know, people used to like to hang out at our house because we had central air. But that's because that's what my dad did for a
That's what your
living.
dad did.
Yeah, he had access.
Oh,
That's
that's
the first
awesome.
thing he did when we moved to the house.
Oh,
He
yeah.
slapped the air conditioner on the house. But
Oh,
those
that's
are kind
awesome.
of things that, people that, it was just a really nice tree line
Hmm.
middle class neighborhood.
Very cool. Very cool. Well,
Hmm.
that sounds like it was a fun place to grow up for you then. So that's awesome. So tell us. So it sounds like in high school you kind of had to make a decision about like what you potentially wanted to do.
Well, I had to make that decision for the ninth grade. It started in the ninth grade, the
Mhm.
Wow.
program did.
Wow.
Yeah.
Now, so
Because
like, is
there
that just like like is that like an Akron thing because like they had like all those companies there? Is that like kind of the high school kind of were geared towards that, or like why was your high school vocational high school?
I think it was an Akron thing
Hmm.
because they could easily feed the factories from the high schools.
Yeah.
Like my dad went to a technical school,
Hmm. Hmm.
and that's where he started his skilled trades.
Gotcha. Gotcha. Okay.
Hmm.
And I think we need more the skilled trades and those opportunities to train. Um, I don't think that they are as popular as they once were, where people can go and learn a trade and how to do something and be an electrician or be a plumber or um, and I wish that those things were more popular now because we need people that know how to do things.
Yeah, no,
You
that's
know
a hundred
what?
percent. That's 100% right. Because like sometimes like
Right.
it's pressure you to go to school, go to school, go to school, go to like go to undergrad. You get into debt, like you don't know what you're majoring in. Like that's time you could have like actually just been an electrician the whole time, you know,
Yeah.
and like
Oh
kind of
yeah.
hooked up that way. So
Hmm.
I agree. There's kind of like a stigma involved with it now, which is like unfortunate because I mean a trade is a trade. Like we're radiologists. That's a trade. You technologists. That's a trade. So like that's I think that should be definitely more normalized. So
I agree. I mean, you own
Well,
your
I
own
think
company.
it's starting. It's starting to happen. Well, it's actually been happening for a few years because the plants need their skilled trade people. The problem is that it's not. Like I have a friend that works for Hopkins, and um, her son just graduated from high school, and he's going into HVAC, and he's doing it through the community college.
Mm-hmm.
And that's because the unions are now kind of connecting themselves with the community college. That's
Oh,
how
sure.
my nephew is a master electrician for General Motors.
Oh, yeah.
Wow.
He babies, but
So awesome career.
his first job out of high school, he worked for Chrysler, and that's how he learned how to work with the robots. And then he went to community college.
Wow.
And
He got in with the union, and now he's with General Motors. The same thing with one of my first cousins. But guess what? Guess where my nephew's daughter works? She just graduated from high school last year. She's working at Chrysler.
Oh,
She's online at Chrysler learning.
I know.
Because that's where these kids do not know what they want to do. So we're like, okay, you're going to a factory.
yeah.
Well, it's fortunate you have the plug. Like, you know how to maneuver them to that opportunity, because, you know, as I said, from Northeast Ohio, you know, I have plenty of family members that worked for General Motors or worked for, you know, a Delphi that was a supplier to General Motors. And when globalization took place and those jobs dried up, I mean, the town and the economy is decimated.
Right.
But if you are able to keep those connections and know that the community college is connected and the unions are connected, and if you're in the know, it can really make a huge difference for your community. So
Absolutely.
that's wonderful that you're able to do that. And a lot of people don't know that community college is free.
Well, you know, I think the problem really. So I got into X-ray just by pure accident.
Tell us what happened.
So originally I wanted to be a medical technologist.
Okay.
Because ultimately I wanted to maybe go to med school.
Okay.
But that was in the back of my little brain that didn't fly. But so all those courses, it doesn't really matter what allied health professional you choose to be. You still have to take the same base courses.
Gotcha.
Whether it's in high school or college, you still got to do anatomy and physiology 1 and 2, your chemistry, your biology, your algebra. You have to take those classes.
Mm-hmm.
You're not going to get into an X-ray program anywhere or any allied health program without those. And it's still that way. But I was having some swallowing issues, and they wanted to do a swallowing study on me when I was in high school. And this is when, now I know you guys are radiologists, but you've never did fluoroscopy with a mirror before.
With a mirror?
Yeah, with a mirror. They used to have to wear red goggles. A lot of times they would drive to work with the goggles on so they would adapt faster. You don't remember doing that? Nobody ever showed you that?
Never. Nope.
No mirror.
Okay, so I'm dating myself, but anyway.
No, this is good. We're learning. We're here to learn.
And this is when you look through the mirror, everything had like a yellowish green glow to it because of the phosphor from the screens.
That's funny. Okay.
The way that's early fluoroscopy, right?
Okay.
Eventually they got it hooked up to, you know, a screen, but early fluoroscopy they wore these red goggles. You know what? To this day, I wish I had a set of red goggles, but I do own an X-ray tube.
Oh wow! Okay.
But yeah, someone gave me an X-ray tube as a gift, and it's a treasure to me to have that.
Oh, that's pretty cool.
It's the old cathode tube. So, I got interested in X-ray. So.
And this was from a swallow study, basically.
From a swallow study. So when I graduated from high school, I had done some volunteer work during high school at one of the local hospitals. So when I graduated from high school, I got a job at St. Thomas Hospital in Akron, Ohio.
Mm-hmm.
Not a functioning hospital anymore.
Okay.
By the way, Cleveland Clinic has taken over that town. So Akron's government.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's true.
Yeah. So I got a job in dietary. And my first job in dietary is I worked on the tray line, where we're like putting the patient's food together. And then I didn't stay on the tray line very long. After that, they had me out like delivering meals to the room and stuff. Anyway, I met this nun, and I had applied to the X-ray school, but I found out about it too late.
Okay.
So with these programs, I should have been applying for it like back in the fall, but we didn't even know that it existed. Like we weren't told that these things were an option or they were available.
Information. Yeah.
And that is something that the high school should have known, or was it only passed on to certain people?
Right.
So
that hasn't changed, by the way.
Yeah, no, it's still like that. So I put the application in, and they said, no, you're gonna have to wait till the next year. That didn't matter. I had to take those classes anyway, so I was able to start doing the prep for that. But anyway, this nun, she really liked me, and when it came around to that following year and I applied, I remember I was working serving in a cafeteria, and she stopped and she said, "Oh, I have some great news for you." And I was like, "What?" She goes, "You got accepted to X-ray school." And I was like, "Are you kidding me?" She goes, "Yeah, no, you got accepted." Yeah, I got accepted, all right. I was the only one, but I got accepted. Okay.
That's good.
They took one of us a year, just one. Yeah. But
it was you. That's a win.
But it was me. It was me.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, that's how I got into X-ray school. And while I was in X-ray school, one of my interests was interventional radiology. So we used to hand make catheters.
Oh yeah, I read about that one.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, we used to hand make catheters, and yeah, it was interesting.
What?
You had a burner and you used to shake the catheter so you could get where you needed to go.
Yep.
I heard
all the shapes. You know how to. Yeah.
That's crazy. Wow.
Yep. You used to put a wire in the catheter and shape it over a Bunsen burner flame.
Yeah. That's the beginning. You're an OG. I'm so honored to have you on Wax. This is great.
I am an OG.
Yes, you're an OG in IR. I can't wait.
Yeah, so we did, our carotids were direct stick. Our aortas were runoffs, were translumbar.
What?
Yeah, I can go on. Yeah.
I was talking to another technologist. I said, so you just punctured through the back into the aorta and you remove the sheath, and you'd have to think you'd have some bleeding after that. Nope, we never had any.
We
never had any.
Never had any.
And I'm thinking, you just didn't look.
Yes, that's right.
No, that is awesome.
Wow. Oh,
yeah, we never. Of course, the carotids we held pressure on them because you could, but the translumbars you couldn't.
Right.
Right.
Wow, that's cool.
That is awesome. Wow.
Yeah, so I'm from that era. So we got an ultrasound machine while I was still in training. There's two technologies that came in while I was in training. And the training is only, like 18 months, almost 2 years. We got ultrasound, which was a B scan. So it was static.
Okay.
And then the Children's Hospital in Akron got a CT scanner. It was a EMI. It only did heads.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's I read about that. It's like the music company, I guess.
Yeah, it's called EMI is English Musical Instruments, and it was owned by the Beatles.
That's right.
Yep.
That's right. Because I think I trained at GW, and I think they had their first one, I guess, in the area at GW, and I think it came into they guess they used it when like Reagan was shot at, and maybe his press secretary or something. I guess they did a CT head on, and they could find the bullet. So, wow, you've seen a lot. You've
Yeah,
seen
I think I've seen, like, I mean, I've been out of interventional now for a few years, so there's a lot of stuff. I mean, I still keep up.
they buy catheters now, right?
Well,
Yeah.
you know what? I spent a few years as the managing materials management, so I could tell you how to buy some catheters. I could tell you how to put 5 or 6 skids together in catheters and ship them in from Japan. Those Terulos.
Yeah.
I could tell you how to do that.
Oh, you're
But
talking Travis's language now.
Yeah, those are some of my favorite types.
yeah, so I've been a technologist a long time.
So tell us where all the places you worked. What brought you to DC then?
My husband went to Howard, and he
Oh, very
come
cool.
back. Uh-huh.
Oh,
Yeah.
very cool, very cool. So, and then
When I came to the DC area, I was a registered technologist.
gotcha. And you kind of just decided you wanted to come, or was it?
Right. Instead of taking the job in Akron when I finished, I just came here.
Good for you. Was there something that drew you to the area, or?
Well, he went to undergrad and law school at Howard, so he wanted to come back to the area. So
Very cool. Okay.
yeah.
Very cool. And
And your first job, was that at Hopkins?
No, my first job was at PG Prince George's Hospital,
Oh,
Yeah.
which I don't even know what it's called now because they've moved it and built another one and all that kind of stuff.
called Capital Regions Health now, but it's
Is
still
that
there.
what it is? Mm-hmm.
Yeah, still there, and that's where you met our friend D. Shout out to D.
Yep, that's where I met D.
Awesome. And you
let's
taught
see.
D. It sounds like.
Huh?
It sounds like you were ahead of D. You taught her some things when she came.
Yeah. She was a student when I started there.
Oh, that's awesome. That's very cool. And you saw a lot of students come through. And like, did you enjoy the teaching aspect, or?
I've always enjoyed the teaching aspect.
Mm-hmm.
And I've never taught like in the radiology schools. I've always, as technologists, we mentor our students.
Mm-hmm.
But working for Hopkins, we had a program that was sponsored by Radiology and Pathology. It was a summer program at the high school across the street, Dunbar, which is an allied health. It's an allied health high school. That's their focus. We had a program in the summer where we would put almost 5 weeks together. We get 15 kids, pay them $650 to come to school. And we would teach them about radiology and pathology because, let's face it, we are the diagnosticians of medicine. It's where the majority of all your diagnoses come out of.
Yeah.
And we would sort of just give them ideas and support, give them some background. But really, they would also have to develop a science fair project. And Dunbar does fairly well in their science fair competitions.
That's very cool. Well, they have great mentors.
Yeah, the summer program. But it was really nice because the kids really got exposed to a lot of things they wouldn't, because we would actually bring them to the hospital.
Oh, wow. That's awesome.
So that was real helpful, for them.
That's super important. It's like a high schooler to know that you can I thought only doctors worked in the hospital till I was in college. So to actually get that exposure is super important. So
yeah, it was. And that, for me, it was really important for the kids to know that the doors were open.
Yeah. Exactly.
Let them know
that the doors were open. You got to know that the doors are open. Don't think that you can't walk in here and do something, because you can.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Wow.
So,
awesome.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
But listen, besides PG, I worked at Capitol Hill Hospital, which closed.
Okay.
It was under MedStar, but it's right there by the Russell office building in Capitol Hill.
Okay.
I worked in Greater Southeast.
Okay.
And then Hopkins. I did a brief stint at a hospital that I won't want to mention because Capitol Hill, when Capitol Hill was closing, I kind of took advantage of that time, and I used some vacation, and I sort of like did some PR in different places to kind of figure out what I wanted to do.
Uh-huh.
So when Hopkins was on an expansion, and they were expanding their IR and cardiac labs.
Mm-hmm.
So I did both. I did both interventional radiology and cardiac.
Oh wow. Okay.
Yeah, I did both and took call for both.
That's a lot of call.
It was brutal.
Oh.
it was brutal.
But yeah. Well, they said
That's what pushed me to go to school.
I see.
Wow. Well, they say, you know, the departments at Hopkins have a reputation for being intense, and you seem like you're more of a laid back personality. Tell me how you navigated those intense environments where maybe you're the only African American woman there. And you're dealing with these high stress situations. How did you make it? How did you do it?
You know what? It's so funny that you say I sound laid back. You know what my vanity tags say? My vanity tags are laid back.
For real.
For real.
All right.
Yeah.
Yep, I've had those tags for a long time.
You embrace it.
That makes some people angry. I remember I got a bad evaluation because they didn't think I was intense enough. They didn't think that I wasn't like jumping if a bell rang. It's like it's just
exactly
my nature to get overly excited.
Well, you know what? That has been one of the most difficult things in my career, is because you can jump around and look like you're bouncing off the walls and you're not actually even doing anything.
Right.
And I don't play that because I'm not doing it.
Throwing
Okay, so I've been there too.
Yeah.
That's true.
How'd you do it though? How'd you navigate that?
I don't know. I think it's part of my father's personality.
Yeah.
Because my father was very laid back. He was in a hurry to do anything. I don't know. I don't know that I paid attention to it, but not to the point where it would necessarily bother me, because I always felt like, I mean, I don't want to sound like I had a big ego, but I felt like I was just as good and fast and intelligent with what I needed to do than anybody else there. I mean, I would have to say that the techs that I work at Hopkins are very high quality. Those people, they're in their areas of expertise. They are very highly trained, and they are super smart people.
Yeah.
But you guys know what it is. Sometimes when you're a laid back person and you're dealing with super smart people, you just ignore them.
You have to sometimes in order to get the job done. Like
right.
You know, you're over there flailing. I'm here focused on what I need to do, and that's how I'm going to be. You know.
Exactly.
Just kind of like you don't pay attention to it, but you develop the sense of knowing all the signs and things. I was good for taking somebody in the dark room and say, look, and very, very professionally say, we're not doing this today.
Okay? I love it. I love
it. That's how you got to do it.
And that includes physicians. It's like, we're not doing that today, because it doesn't make any sense.
True.
It's not going to get anything done. We're going to be here half the night, no matter what.
Yeah.
So let's just do this and get it over with, because I'm tired,
Yeah.
But it's you have to be, you definitely become your own person.
Mm-hmm.
It's like I was like my own person.
Yeah. Well,
Mhm.
you have this swell of confidence, and once people know you're someone they can't rattle or they can't mess with, then they tend to leave you alone and let you do you.
Right.
Where do you think you get that confidence?
I think growing up with my cousins,
Yeah,
only girl with a bunch of
Mhm.
guys.
there's a bunch of guys you said. Yeah,
Wow.
That's where I think that came from.
yeah.
Um, I learned early how to defend myself.
That's
Um,
That's cool.
I I don't know. I think the thing of it is that I used to younger as a kid, like not even quite, yeah, like my teenage years and stuff. I had a temper, and I decided that I was going to work on my temper because I knew my temper was going to get me in trouble. I think especially
Mm.
the time where, and my cousin just reminded me of that like 6 months ago. He goes, because I've had some like major surgery, and he said to me, he goes, okay, I got a question for you. He goes, we were walking down the street, and I shot a glass milk jug out of your hand with a BB gun.
what?
And he goes, what did you do to me? I said, I hit you in the head with a plastic piggy bank. He goes, yep, and I still wear the scar. He goes, you're okay. You're fine. You remember everything. We used to like,
Oh, that's great.
You popped off then.
Yeah.
yeah. So and then I decided to like, we gotta like do something about the temper. But and I did. I really worked hard on my temper.
Mhm.
Where I I don't necessarily, I don't know. It's not good to make me mad, but it takes a lot,
Yeah,
That's good. That's
And
good.
so that's the thing. Like when you're working in those such kind of situations, it to get mad or to get angry, it's not energy that you can even afford
you're absolutely right.
Right.
to
Exactly.
expend. You can't afford to do that
And
because you got to stay awake.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Now you
yeah,
got a
So
job to do. Yeah,
yeah,
exactly.
you have a job to do, and your job is like you can't make mistakes because if you make a mistake, the person can die.
absolutely.
And that's very, very different. All techs don't know that. All techs don't
Yeah.
work in that situation. They have not a clue.
No,
You
no.
know, you've got to work and spend time in that kind of situation. Um,
And that's good. I mean, it
and
sounds like you have the same like perspective that the physician would have, So like that makes you aligned with them as far as like trying to get things done. And when they're not aligned, like you have the right alignment that they need to get on your page. So that's
yeah, yeah, but it was a team effort. I think it's been years. Hopkins separated the labs like years ago,
Mhm.
um, but one of the things that was really cool was the docs, especially the radiologists, depended on us as technologists to pull from cardiology, especially in this like a really bad interventional case, to pull from radiology the things that they would need to get that case done.
Oh wow.
Because our knowledge base for cardiac was such a huge transferable skill into interventional radiology.
That's awesome. That's just experience. That's just more and more experience that you have.
Hmm. Right.
Yeah. No, that's awesome. Like you're like a major resource. Like I mean,
Hmm.
they know and you've seen everything at that point. So like
Hmm.
that kind of gives you another
Hmm.
reason to be calm that you've seen everything. So,
Hmm.
Oh man, as an interventional radiologist, if your technologist, lead technologist, is not on board, man, that's some kind of hell.
It
yeah,
That's
is.
not,
It is.
that's
It
not
is
fun,
because
and
so you know what you're
it's a lot of
losing.
turnover. There's a lot of
Yeah.
turnover. You might have a difficult case, but guess what? There are 5 more, 6 more, 7 more, 10 more waiting for you. So
Right.
yeah,
Right.
so
Right.
true, so true.
And the techs, I mean, it was great when they, because I did interventional radiology before nursing. So we
Mm,
were also taking care of the patient's vital signs as well. And
Mhm.
wow.
so, of course, I came through that transition. I also saw interventional radiology fellowships expand, where there was like a lot more, surgical background and
Hmm.
other, rotations that the fellows were doing before they come. But I can tell you, I've taught many a fellow how to put on a pair of sterile gloves sterilely,
Yeah.
For sure.
Oh, that's so funny.
because it was as much our job, because we had fellows, because Hopkins has an interventional program, it was just as much our job to get the images on the patient as it was to babysit the resident and the fellow or
Yeah.
and the med student.
Yes. Yeah.
Like, and to speak up and say, and I think the thing is that we had the ability to speak up
Hmm.
because it was about the patient.
Mhm.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, I
Absolutely.
mean, it wasn't every day or all the time, but there were moments it's like, what are you doing? Stop, Um, it's that, we were there to care for that patient. Patient
Absolutely.
first.
That
Patient.
makes sense. And like in like you said, like if you're at a training program, like the attending's gonna trust you before they trust anyone else in the room. Whether it's the
Mhm.
fellows, med students, like residents. So you're such an important resource, like to get things done. So I do have a quick story from like my IR days. I knew I wasn't gonna do IR because I'm lazy, but I remember like like at GW, like the IR techs were very funny too. So basically, they had this thing where like you would you would put on your lead, and then obviously then you would gown up. But then if you forgot to put on your lead and just started to gown up, they would like let you gown up, and then like right before they turn like anything on, they're like, okay, you got to buy donuts now. So like because you didn't put on your lead. So I used to buy donuts all the time.
Oh man,
I was
they were
always buying
hazing
donuts.
you,
Yeah,
hazing you.
yeah, exactly. I'm like, man, I used to just like at the end, I was just bringing donuts every day because I was like, I already know. Like I already know. Tell us. So, what would you tell someone who's you know, in X-ray school or thinking about X-ray school? Like, what would you tell them to you know, kind of push them to like kind of consider the career?
Oh gosh, I don't know. My opinion of that has really changed over the years.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I was a very strong. Radiology is really kind of one of the ultimate technical jobs because and especially interventional radiology because we do so much for patients. Um, and that's just ever expanding. Um, the whole concept of uh, surgery, you know, performing surgery on people, through imaging with less downtime and everything else is just really important. And there's just a lot of treatment that back in the day didn't exist that exists, now because of radiology.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I
But you can tell your opinion if you feel like, yeah, you can be honest, whatever you feel like.
And I gather,
I
based,
don't know. I don't know that. I don't know that it's the optimal field to go into anymore.
Why do you say that?
yeah, expand on
Because
that.
I feel like the way we our healthcare system in this country is just so messed up.
Mm.
I mean,
Mm-hmm.
it's a disease model, and you know we're surviving on people being sick instead of keeping people well, um,
Mm-hmm.
and giving people good care across the board. And
Mm-hmm.
until we um, change our attitude towards how we treat people, that everyone should have the same opportunities in treatment, I think that going into healthcare is really I don't think it's that great a care. We're not keeping people. People are leaving
Hmm.
in droves because they get burnt out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean,
True.
we've
Very
got to
true.
figure out a way to give good health care and not burn out the people who are giving the care.
Great point.
Well,
Absolutely.
and why do you think people are getting burned out?
Because we're asked to work, we're asked to do, we're asked to work more hours than are humanly possible sometimes.
Mhm.
Um,
Yeah,
and
this is true.
we are asked to, not only the hours are bad, but there's not enough help. We don't have the proper coverage
Mhm.
Hmm.
to do the work.
Yeah.
And I mean, of course, that's across the board in other industries, but then that needs to be addressed everywhere.
Yeah.
Why is it that people don't want to do things? Well, I
Hmm.
think it's because we're not focusing on, in our schools, we're not focusing on giving people the opportunity, because one, if you don't know about it, you can't do it.
That's true.
That's very
Yeah.
true.
You gotta
Absolutely.
know. You gotta knowledge sharing. It's just it's atrocious. It should
Yeah,
be.
it's just really bad. And you have to change, the whole educational system. Sometimes I feel like we're dumbing America down because we're just not giving to people what it is they need to make a living. And
Yeah.
then those of us who step forward and say, "Oh, I care about people, and I want a job. I want to be this passionate person who works in healthcare and helps takes care of people," and then you burn me out.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, that's true.
So I don't know. That's kind of where I'm at. I mean, I worked through COVID. I retired last year, April of 22. Um,
Congrats.
Thanks. 47 years, guys.
Wow.
Wow,
47 years. I've done nothing but radiology my entire adult life.
that's amazing.
And I've done multi levels, of especially working at Hopkins. I've done multi levels. I've managed
Hmm.
a mammo department. I've done materials management. I've done logistics and project coordination.
Hmm.
Um, my specialty was working on facilities and then changing
Okay.
them appropriate to workflows.
Okay. Okay.
Um,
Very cool.
so I've had a great career, but it's I don't know. We've had a huge brain drain the past probably 4 years, 5 years, because the group that's my age, that's where all the knowledge is.
Yeah.
They're
Yeah.
gone. They're
You're
like, see ya.
you, and you giving the long arc answer to that question. I had been thinking that
Hmm.
COVID and the pandemic was a large part of this overwhelming feeling of burnout that a lot of people feel. Um, but it seems to me there was a heyday
Hmm.
where you loved it and you didn't feel burned out.
Yeah, there was a heyday.
The money was coming in, you felt supported.
Oh yeah. I mean, I'll be the first person to tell you that I have been truly blessed, and I feel like I've had God's favor because I really did earn a very good income.
Hmm.
And I was able to take care of my family and take care of myself now in retirement. Um, and so, I feel nothing but gratitude for that. And you know, Healthcare can pay very, very well depending on what you go into and what you're doing. I mean, like right now, the techs, they go to X-ray school and they all want to be CT and MRI and
Hmm.
intervention. Nobody wants to do the diagnostic work. Well, somebody got to do the diagnostic work. And those techs get burnt out.
Hmm.
And then techs, transferring up into the other modalities, that leaves you with a deficit of workers.
Yeah.
Right.
So that's a problem. I don't know really how you can change that, because the kids that are coming out of school now, they don't want to work like that.
It's different. Yes.
Yeah, they don't want to work like that, and they don't really care and there's no incentive to do this. They don't really care if they hop jobs every 2 or 3 years.
Yeah.
There's just no, I get a pension, but they don't give pensions anymore. I mean, it's just so different. So people they go for the money.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I think it's going to take a change in society to sort of fix all these problems and issues in order to be more attractive. But, we could really start with the schools. And particularly in the schools, we should really be working with guidance counselors. We should be going directly to them. And even though, if a guy, I know over at Dunbar, I think one guidance counselor might have 125 students, and there's no way that person ever talked to all those kids.
Yeah, that's true.
So, you have those kind of problems. If we could get the information to them,
that would be a big step.
I mean, it's like me now. Like, I'm retired, but I'm a lifelong learner, and I'm doing a lot of stuff with, I'm taking classes at the community college because I can take all the classes I want for $80 a semester. Hey, go figure. That's cheap, because, I like to continue to educate myself, because, that's what I do. That's part of my entertainment. But, I mean, I think the idea of your podcast is an excellent way to get to the kids.
Well, we appreciate you making the time, because like this information is like, well, first of all, we learned a lot. I didn't know you could make catheters, so I'm still shocked.
Yeah, I can make catheters. I bet you I can still do it. I bet you I can shape a nice JB1 and be ready for you now. But yeah, I can make catheters. And I think you really have to, we're all thinking about, can we get these kids? Can we get these kids? I think we need to go out and get these adults.
It's a great point. It's a great point, because they're already trained and they're ready.
Yeah. So they have the background. I mean, we don't have a great appreciation for transferable skills until we're desperate.
Yes, so true. Oh,
very true.
Very well.
Yeah. We really need to focus on transferable skills.
Oh, that's awesome. I mean, and that's an era that you grew up in, basically working in IR, cardiology, like you're like ultrasound. See, like this is like, that was like a concept that was inherent to like your education, basically. So
yeah.
It's different from ours, where it's like so super specialized and you're just.
But you know what? As a technologist nowadays, you have to be specialized.
That's true.
You do. It's just like you guys. It's radiology has gotten to the point where, we were jack of all trades, but we did master them. I don't know that you can do that now.
You don't sound retired at all, actually. You sound like you're still like learning.
You know what? I'm so busy that sometimes I make myself tired.
Well, again, we appreciate you making the time for us. This was awesome. We learned a lot. I feel like you gave very great and honest advice. So we appreciate you making the time, definitely. And
you're very welcome.
Thank you.
I
wanted to talk to you about so many other things, and we'll have to bring you back, because I'm sure you have much more you could share and help us.
Now you're coming back. This has been awesome, and we definitely appreciate everyone for listening.
Yes.
And until next time, stay low and keep firing.
Bye.
Please subscribe, rate, and review on iTunes or wherever you get your pods.
So I have to share this guy with you. The year before I retired, I actually trained and became certified as a community health worker because I thought that that's what I wanted to do in retirement. And so that brought a lot of attention to resources because I like logistics. There are a lot of resources out there. Just got to find them.
That's
Gotta
exactly
talk to
right.
somebody, and hopefully, you guys are going to be a resource for someone, some kid, some adult, somebody who listens to your podcast and think about, you know what, I should really look into this as a career.
Yeah.
Oh, absolutely.